In this video, let us see about the AVL trees. AVL tree is a height balanced binary search tree, and it is introduced in the year 1962 by Adelson, Welsky and Landis. So the name AVL is given by their first character of their names, and this AVL tree can be called as a balanced binary search tree because it has to satisfy the property of a balancing factor. So what does mean by a balancing factor is the balancing factor is the difference between the height of the left subtree and the height of the right subtree. So every node in a tree will maintain an extra information which we call it as a balancing factor. And when can we tell that the AVL tree is height balanced binary search tree is that when we have the balancing factor for every node of the AVL tree as either -1, 0 or +1. So when we have the balancing factor equal to -1, 0 or +1, then we can tell that the tree is balanced. So if the tree is not balanced, then we are supposed to perform the rotations. Okay, so we'll see the rotations in the later part. Now let me tell you how to find out the balancing factor for each and every node of an AVL tree. So let us now move to an example of finding the balancing factor. So say that we have a tree here. So let us now find out the balancing factor for every node of the tree starting from the leaf node. So leaf node means that the node which has got no children. So the balancing factor for every leaf node is 0 because the height of there is no left and no right. So the height of left and minus height of right is going to be 0. So BF for node 28 is 0, BF for node 38 is 0, and the balancing factor for node 48 is 0. Now let us find out for node 10. So here there is no left subtree, so it is 0, height of the left subtree minus the height of the right subtree. So what is the height of the right subtree? It is the edge, so it is 1. So the height of the balancing factor for the node 10 is -1. So it is the height of left minus the height of right. So 0 minus 1. So it's going to be -1. Fine. Now let us find out for the rest of the nodes. For the node 22, since it has got no left and no right, the balancing factor is 0. Now for node 20. So for node 20, what is going to be the balancing factor? The height of the left subtree. The height of left is what? 2. Okay. The height of the right subtree is only 1. So 2 minus 1 is going to be 1. Now let us start for the node 30. Now for node 30, what is the balancing factor? It has got only left child, no right. So 1 minus 0, so it's equal to 1. Now for node 40, what is going to be the balancing factor? It has got one left child and right child. So one height is 1 minus 1, 0. Okay. Now for node 36, what's the height of this left subtree of node 36? Height is 2 for the right left part, and now for the right part again the height is what? 2, right? So the height of left minus height of right, it is 0. So the balancing factor is 0. Now for node 25, so what is the height of this left part of the node 25? The height for this left part is 3. So 1, 2, 3. Now minus for the right side part. Right side of this node 25, the height is again 3. So 3 minus 3 is going to be 0. So this is how we calculate the balancing factor for this AVL tree. Fine. So hope now you have got it. So I'll rewrite it for you here, the balancing factor. So for node 25 it is 0, for node 20 it is 1, node 36 it is 0, for 10 minus 1, 22, 0, for 30 it is 1, it is 40 it is 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. Fine. Now let us see that what are we supposed to do if the tree is, the balancing factor of the AVL tree is not balanced. Okay, so if it is not balanced, then we are supposed to perform the rotation. So there are four types of rotation. We generally categorize into single rotation and double rotation. In single rotation, we have left left and right right. So left left and right right. And in double rotation, we have left right rotation and the right left rotation. Fine. Now, so when are we supposed to perform this rotation? When we don't have the balancing factor which is equal to -1, 0 or +1. When this property is getting violated, then we have to perform these rotations. Now, so now let us see the rotations one by one. Let us see first the single rotation, which is the left left rotation. So remember always, whenever you have your tree as a right skewed, okay, so when you have the tree as a right skewed, okay, right skewed, then we call this rotation that we are supposed to perform the left left rotation. So first let us find out the balancing factor. So what's the balancing factor for node 3? It is 0. No left, no right, so 0. Now, what is the balancing factor for node 2? What is the height of the left subtree? It is 0. Height of the right subtree is 1. So 0 minus 1 is going to be -1. What about the balancing factor for node 1? What is the height of the left subtree? It is 0. The right subtree height is what? 1, 2. So 0 minus 2, the balancing factor is -2. Fine. Now you can see that at the node 1, the balancing factor has got violated. Okay, so the balancing factor is not satisfied by node 1. Now what are we supposed to do is we have to perform the rotation. So as I've told, it is a right skewed. Now how do we make this AVL tree as balanced? So we can perform the rotation, which is called as the left left rotation. So this is your left side, so you rotate this towards the left part. So when we make a rotation, when we rotate, say that this is a string, so if you have to rotate this towards the left, now 2 will become the root node, 3 is your right child, and 1 will become the left node, right? Now let us check out the balancing factor. So the balancing factor here for node 3 is 0, balancing factor for node 1 is 0, and for node 2 the balancing factor is 0. So now it is balanced. Okay, so this is how we perform the rotations if the tree is not balanced. This is LL rotation. And next let us move on to RR rotation. So in RR rotation, if the tree is left skewed, okay, if the tree is left skewed, then you can remember the opposite of this RR. So right. If it is left skewed, so all the nodes are towards the left, right? So that we call it as left skewed. Now, if it is this, now first before making rotation, let us find out the balancing factor. What's the balancing factor for node 1? Node 1, it is 0. For node 2, it is the height of left subtree. Height of left is 1, right is 0. So 1 minus 0, it is 1. Now, what about the height of node 3? So node 3, the left height is 2 minus 0. So it's equal to 2. So the balancing factor. So at this node 3, the property is getting violated, right? So the balancing factor is not satisfied. So how do we now deal with this case? So we have to perform what rotation? We have to perform the rotation towards which side? We have to perform rotation towards the right side, right? So rotate this towards the right. So how do we rotate this towards the right, and how does the node now changes? So 2 will be the root node. This 3 will come down. So 3 is going to be at the right part and 1 is going to be in the left part. Okay. Now let us see the balancing factor. So the balancing factor here for node 3 is 0. For the node 1 it is 1. and for node 2 it is again 0. So it is 1 minus 1, height of left minus height of right is going to be 0. Fine. So this is how we perform the RR rotation. So we have seen now two rotations. One is left and next is RR. Okay, fine. Now the next rotation is double rotation. So in double rotation there are two types, LR rotation and RL rotation. So in how do you identify it as LR is when you have a node at the left and then at its right. Okay, and if the AVL tree property is not satisfied, then we perform the LR rotation. So now let us find out the balancing factor. What is the balancing factor for this? Node 2, it is 0. What is the balancing factor for node 1? It is 0, left is 0, height of right is 1, 0 minus 1 is going to be minus 1. And what is the height of this node 3? So for the left, it is height is 2, minus for right it is 0. So the balancing factor is 2. Fine. So the property is getting violated by the node 3. Right. So node 3 is violating the property. Now what are we supposed to perform? We have to perform now the rotation. So what is the rotation and how do we rotate it? So we can rotate it by performing the LR rotation. So what is this LR? How do we make LR? Is first fix this node 3. Okay, so always fix this node, the node which is the node which is at the top level has to be fixed. Fine. So 3 is fixed. Now just consider this node 1 and 2. Okay, rotate it towards what? First towards the left. Okay, so rotate first towards the left. So how do we rotate first towards the left? So we have to make out a move of these two nodes towards its left. So this is your left part. So now when I make a move towards the left part, how will be my node look like? So it is 2 in the middle and then 1 will come to this position, right? So now you can tell me this, all the 3 nodes are what skewed? So this all is left skewed, right? So when you have the nodes arranged in left skewed, then what rotation are we supposed to perform? So we have performed first the left rotation and then we are supposed to perform now the right rotation, right? So if it is left skewed, we perform the rotation called as a right rotation. So here we have seen how to perform the RR rotation, right? So if it is left skewed, you move the nodes towards its rotated towards the right. So now let us rotate it and write down the resultant tree. So 2 at the root, the 3 and then 1. Now let us find out the balancing factor for node 3. It's 0. For balancing factor for node 1 is 0. For balancing factor for node 2 it is 0. So hope now you have understood what is mean by LR rotation, right? Now let us move to the right left rotation. So same case as if we have dealt with the LR. So let us now do with right left. So how do we do it? First we have to rotate it towards the right. So make the node fixed here. Fix this 1. So let us write down. So let us fix this node 1 and then we have to perform the rotation for these 2 nodes, right? So these 2 nodes we have to move it towards which part? We have to move it towards the right part of the tree. So moving it towards the right. So how do we get the tree now? So we'll get the tree as 2. So this moved up. So 2 and then 3. So what is this? Tree is right skewed, right? So the tree is right skewed. So if the tree is right skewed, what rotation are we supposed to perform? Tell me. So we have to rotate it towards the left, right? So it is what rotation? LL rotation, right? So LL rotation, rotating towards the left. Now let us draw the tree. So the final tree would be 2, now 1 and 3. Now let us find the balancing factor. The balancing factor is going to be 0 for node 3, for node 1 it is 0, and for node 2 the balancing factor is 0. So 1 minus 1, height of left minus height of right is going to be 0. Fine. So now let us do an example of constructing an AVL tree by inserting numbers from 1 to 8. Okay. So let us do one by one. So whenever the node is not violating the property of a balancing factor, then we are supposed to perform the rotations. Fine. So let us start drawing it step by step. So step 1, first we have inserted node 1. Now find out the balancing factor. Balancing factor, no left, no right, so it is 0. Now we'll insert the node 2. So remember always that the AVL tree should satisfy the property of a binary search tree. So the leftmost node should be smaller than the root node and the rightmost node should be greater than the root node, right? So inserting 2 on which part of the tree? The right part of the tree. So the balancing factor for node 2 is 0. The balancing factor for node 1 will be height of left. Left is 0 minus height of right. Height of right is 1. So it is equal to minus 1. So the property is not violated here. The tree is balanced. Okay. Now let us draw the next steps. So step 3. So let us write step 1, step 2. And then step 3. So in step 3, so let us insert the node 3. So 1, now 2, and then 3. Now find out the balancing factor. So 0. Balancing factor for node 2 is height of left, no left, right is 1, so minus 1. And the balancing factor for node 1 is 0 minus 2, so is equal to minus 2. Now the property is getting violated at which node? At node 1. So what are we supposed to do now, right? So we have to check out whether what rotation is possible to make the tree balanced. So as the tree is right skewed, okay, so as a tree is right skewed, we are supposed to perform what rotation? We have to rotate it towards which part? Left part. So it is LL rotation, right? So let us now redraw the tree. Let us rotate the tree. So 2, 1, and now 3. Fine. So we have performed the rotation operation. So that what is the balancing factor? Balancing factor is 0. Balancing factor is 0. And the balancing factor is 0. Fine. Now let us insert the node 4. So let us write on the next step of inserting node 4. So 2, 1, 3, and now inserting node 4. Let us find the balancing factor. So balancing factor for node 4 is 0. For node 3, 0 minus 1. So it's equal to minus 1. For node 0, the balancing factor is 0. For node 2, it is left child height is 1 minus 2. So it's equal to minus 1. So all the nodes are satisfying the property of what? The AVL tree. Now let us insert the node 5. So let us insert node 5. So 2, 1, 3, 4, and now 5. Fine. So now when we insert, let us find out the balancing factor. So the balancing factor is going to be 0 for node 5. Balancing factor for 4 is 0 minus 1. So it is minus 1. For node 3, 0 minus the height of this node 3 is what? 2. So it is minus 2. For node 1, it is 0. For node 2, it is the height of left is 1. The height of right is 3. So it's equal to minus 2. So now we find that the two nodes are violating the property. So it is node 3 and node 2. So first we have to start from the base. So let us now perform the rotation for the node first, which violates the property. So we have to perform the rotation for this part. As remember one thing, that we have to see that because of the insertion of which node is the imbalance has happened, okay, in the AVL tree. So here, because of the insertion of node 5, imbalance has happened in the right part of the AVL tree, right? So now we have to deal only with this branch, okay. So now let us just redraw the tree. Let us perform the rotation first. So you can take this 3, 4 and 5 separately, and you can perform the rotation. So this all is what? Right skewed. So if it is right skewed, what rotation are we supposed to perform? We have to rotate it towards the left, okay. So when we rotate towards the left, so 3 will come down and then we'll have 5 here, okay. Now you can replace this entire part of this tree, okay, with the rotation what we have obtained now. So we can replace it with this part. So let us replace it and let us redraw the tree. So the node 2, and then we'll have node 1, and now this is redrawn as 4, 3 and 5. Fine. Now let us find out the balancing factor for this tree. So the balancing factor for this is, for node 5 it is 0, for node 3 it is 0, for node 4 it is 0, 1 minus 1 it is 0, and for node 1 it is 0, and for node 2 the height of left is 1 minus height of right is 2, so 1, 2, now it is minus 1. Fine. So all the nodes are satisfying its property. Now let us insert the node 6. So when we insert the node 6, let us draw it. Node 2, 1, 4, 3, 5, and the node 6 is inserted towards the right of node 5. Now let us find out the balancing factor. So the balancing factor for every node, for balancing factor for node 6 is 0. For node 5 is left height is 0 minus right height is 1, so it is minus 1. For balancing factor for node 3 is 0. For balancing factor for node 4, the height of left is 1 minus the height of right is 2, so 1 minus 2 is minus 1. The balancing factor for node 1 is 0. The balancing factor for node 2 is height of left is 1 minus height of right is 3, so it is minus 2. So at this point, at node 2, the property is getting violated, right? So this property has been violated because of the insertion of which node? Because of the insertion of this node 6, right? So now you have to take up the consecutive 3 nodes which are beneath, because this is the branch for inserting node 6, right? So node 6 is inserted as a right child of this node 2. So we are supposed to take out the edges that has led to the insertion of node 6, okay. So the next 3 nodes. Now take out these nodes alone separately. So 2, 4 and 5. Now all these 3 nodes are what skew? This all is right skew. So perform the rotation towards the left. So when we perform the rotation towards left, what do we get? Node 4, node 2 and node 5. Fine. Now we'll replace this and then we'll connect this node 1 and 3. Okay. So first let us redraw this tree. Now let us redraw it. So what is going to be your tree is node 4, node 2, node 5, and 5 is connected to 6. So let us draw 6, and the left of 2 is going to be 1, and where will be the node 3? 3 should be always lesser than 4. So coming to node 2, 3 is greater than 2. So we'll place 3 here. So this is now the updated AVL tree. Now let us find out the balancing factor for node 1 is 0. Balancing factor for node 3 is 0. Node 6 is 0. For node 5 is 0 minus 1. It's minus 1. For node 2 is 0. The height of left minus height of right. So 1 minus 1. It is 0. And for node 4, the height of left is 2 minus the height of right is 2. So it is 0. Fine. So now all the nodes in all the nodes the tree is balanced. Now let us insert the node 7. Now 4, 2, 5, 1, 3, 6 and now 7. Now let us find the balancing factor. So for balancing factor, for 7 is 0. Now for 6 is 0 minus 1 is going to be minus 1. For node 5, so 0 minus 2 is minus 2. For node 4, so 2 minus the height of left is 2 and height of right is 3, so is equal to minus 1. Now height of left is 0. For the node 1 is 0. Balancing factor for node 1 and 3 is 0. For node 2 it is again 0, so it's 1 minus 1, 0. And now where do we find that the node is not balanced? So here we can find that the node 5 is violating the property of AVL tree. Now what are we supposed to do? We have to now select the node. So because of the insertion of node 6, this violation has happened. So from node 5, you have to take out the next 2 consecutive nodes, okay, in its path. Now just we can redraw this. So 5, 6 and 7. This is all right skewed. So now rotate it towards left. So 6, 5 and 7. Fine. Now let us redraw this tree. So 4, 2, 1, 3. Now this part is going to be 6, 5 and 7. Fine. Now let us so now let us find out the balancing factor. So what is going to be the balancing factor now? Balancing factor for node 7, 5, 3, 1 is all 0. And for node 2 is 0. For node 6 is 0. And for node 4 it is 0. Okay. Now let us insert the node 8. So node 8, when we insert, let us just redraw it. So 4, now 2, 6, 1, 3, 5, 7 and now we'll insert 8. Okay, now let us find out the balancing factor. So balancing factor for node 8 is 0. For node 7 is 0 minus 1, so it's minus 1, 0, 0, 0. For node 2 0. Node 6 it is for node 6 it is going to be, the balancing factor is going to be the height of left. So the left height is 1 minus right is 2, so it is minus 1. Now what is going to be the height of left child of node 4? So it's going to be 2 minus 3, so it's minus 1. So here we find that all the nodes of the AVL tree are all satisfying the balancing factor. So we have, this is how we are constructing the AVL tree by inserting the numbers from 1 to 8. So hope you have got this. As we are performing the insertion, even deletion can happen as if we have done for a binary search tree. So if the property is not violated, then we have to perform the rotation operation. Thank you.